All right. Well, thank you, everyone. My name is Jennifer Wonder, and I'm Associate State Director of Outreach and Advocacy for AARP. That is a long title. Um, and I'm in Houston, but we are so happy to be here today. And this is our last one of the series. I'm sure you've gotten a survey before, but please fill out the surveys. We love to hear the feedback, and we look forward to having hopefully this series next year as well. Um, but yeah, recordings have been emailed. By Melissa and sometimes by us too. So you might be getting doubles. Um, but thank you so much, Melissa. We appreciate all your work and time flew by. We're halfway through the year. I'll let you take it away.
Sounds great. All right, welcome everybody. So we're in a webinar view today, which is great. So sometimes I can see you guys and sometimes I can't. Um, I would love for you to use the chat box as a way to connect and communicate today. It is such a privilege, as Jennifer said, for me to be here and to wrap up our series together using humor. So I'm a clinical mental health therapist. I have worked with caregivers of Alzheimer's and other dementia for, oh gosh, going on 15 or more years now. My father was a full-time caregiver to my stepmom, and it introduced me to this world of caregiving and becoming a long-distance caregiver myself, and I continue to do that. So I love that you're adding in where you're zooming in from. So if you would continue to do that, I would love to hear where you're zooming in from. And someone said hello from rainy Houston. I would love to know what your emotional weather is today. So maybe checking in like, oh, it's stormy. I've had a really difficult morning. Or it is blue skies. I've had such a light morning. So you're letting us know what your emotional weather is today. I would say mine is mostly sunny, partly cloudy. I've had a very busy morning, so I'm starting to see the clouds part and feeling a bit more settled and grounded as I am experiencing sharing one of my favorite things. I love this. Yeah. You can tell me the actual weather. Or, so the definition of emotional weather is, right, what is happening inside my body? If I can notice, right, how I'm feeling about a particular situation and interpret it through my body, I have more access points to handle what is going on in the situation. So if I can recognize, ooh, somebody said something very critical, oh, that feels definitely like a thundercloud or maybe like a tornado or, right? Just reinterpreting that in a metaphor gives you some distance from the situation. And if we can have a little distance, we can find a little bit of lightness and maybe even some humor. So I love it. Yeah, thanks, guys, for continuing to add in there. Yeah, I hear you. Okay, so this topic is challenging for me because I don't define myself as someone who is funny at all. But I do love to laugh and I love to find ways and outlets to sort of lessen the intensity of particular situations. And anytime you can find a little bit of humor in something, there is a gateway to a different outcome in the circumstance. I would love to know in the chat box how many of you use humor. Is it easy? Is it hard? What's the most challenging part of humor for you? Um, I would love to know that in the chat box, and it would give me a little bit of direction of maybe some of you also feel challenged by this. Um, I am not able to monitor both the raising hands and the chat, so if we could utilize the chat box today, that would be so useful and really helpful for me to keep things moving along. I would love that. So I'm going to share my screen here and do a little bit of introduction to this practice that we're going to use. Ooh, yeah. Someone said, I am good. I respond to other people's humor, but I'm not good at creating humor. Yeah, I'm right there with you. I can kind of feed off of it a little bit, but sometimes I don't think I'm quite so good. But what's interesting is my perception of that and what other people perceive of me is slightly different. And it probably depends on the person and the situation. Someone else wrote, I don't tend to tell jokes per se, but I use humor regularly in talking to people. I've found that making people smile makes it a lot easier to work with people, especially in tense situations at work, right? When we can add levity, when we can add lightness in an appropriate way, boy, that can be such a solve to any sort of tense circumstance. Um, Someone said, I really enjoy telling jokes. Oh, well, feel free to type one in the chat box if you've got one. We would love to hear it. So go for it. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here. And at any time, if you are not able to see something, feel free to type in the chat box as I am working to monitor that as well. Yeah, someone else wrote, I'm typically a serious person, so I'm not so great at creating humor, but I enjoy the opportunity to laugh. I love that. It's fun with cookouts, set up events, good crowd, not negative. Yeah, right. Good in groups. TV shows help me laugh. That's good. Humor is therapy for me. When I can share laughter, I'm more relaxed and present. Sometimes we can use humor to deflect the real situation and to mask things. So that's not what I'm necessarily talking about. We want to be aware when we use humor to completely avoid something, right? Or go all the way around it. What we're talking about today is how do we create a sense of lightness, not take ourselves quite so seriously, and implement some of those mindfulness skills that we've been working toward and working with all along through this series. Um, so when we look at laughter as a sense of mindfulness, how are they even connected? So when we can create, right, that very simple definition of mindfulness is when the moment we become aware of something, we typically have a judgment about it. Um, when we judge something as good, bad, or neutral, then we have a tendency to react about it. When something feels neutral or good, we don't tend to have a reaction quite as strong. Maybe there's laughter or excitement, but there's not necessarily a negative response. But when we deem something is bad or harmful or whatever, and our protection wall goes up, it's really difficult to use humor. But when we can become aware of something, notice, right? That's why we use that sort of emotional weather metaphor today. When we can recognize within us that we can, maybe I'm inflating this. Maybe this is something is actually maybe like a 2 on a scale of 0 to 10, but I'm reacting like it's a 10, right? How do we dial it down? And that begins with just beginning to notice our responses to different situations as they happen. And then we can, right, diffuse by using various strategies. Think of it as like this giant toolkit that you have of all these different mindfulness tools or ways in which you are in the world. And this is just one of those tools. And it can be quite useful and brilliant. Oh boy, here we go. If you want to know the joke, I'll read it out loud, but you can read it in the chat box. So, mindfulness stems from a place of non-judgment. How do we find the neutral path? In other words, can I be a little more curious about something so that I'm not so likely to immediately judge it? We call that compassionate curiosity. Mindfulness requires patience. I would say caregiving requires patience. I would say being human requires patience. When we can cultivate that value, that's when we have more access to humor. a beginner's mind. If we think we are always right, I don't know how many of you think that. Sometimes I think I'm right about really specific things. But if I can let the gas off of that and come at a place of what can I learn here? What can I grow from? What do I not know about this? That gives me more room and access for joy and laughter. Ooh, trust. Um, right? If we're gonna crack a joke, we need to know our audience, and there has to be some level of trust there. In other words, we often don't use humor when the other person, right, tends to be quite negative or tends to assume the worst in us. But if we have cultivated a little bit of trust, and the opposite is also true. Humor, using humor can sometimes break down a wall. It can soften things. I was um I was listening to a clip of our former President Obama, who often uses and used humor to create circumstances. He's like, I got to deflect to my wife here, or right. He would often use humor as a way to connect with other people, and it can build a sense of trust and efficacy. Non-striving is a principle of mindfulness. So, what do I mean by non-striving? It's again that idea of not putting the gas on something. It's like, can I slow this down? And if I can slow this down, I can respond rather than react. I don't need to have my agenda always, right? There may be other ways, and especially in caregiving, maybe there's other ways to do things. It may not be my way, right? The way that I perceive the right way, but can I slow things down so there's less striving and there is more meeting, right? More malleable and adaptability. And oh, being flexible is one of the key ingredients to finding humor in something. Acceptance. There is a level of acceptance in practicing mindfulness. In other words, when we talk about the weather earlier, right? We cannot control the rain, the sun, the what, right? Weather is completely out of our control. What can we do? We can carry an umbrella. We can wear appropriate clothing. We can plan for the rain. We can plan for the sun and wear sunscreen, right? So there's a level of acceptance in things that we cannot control. And that gives us, again, more options. When we have more options, we have more agency. And that agency is your power. It is in your best self interest to have more options in how you respond to things. And it is the secret to connection. Oh, God, I love it. Frida's on a roll in the chat box for jokes. We're going to read a few of those later. Letting go. This is not my favorite attribute of mindfulness because I don't know if anyone else can relate, it's hard to let some things go. Or if someone says to you, calm down, what do? You kind of get more activated. Well, I don't want to calm down. I want to feel seen. I want to feel heard. I want to connect with you. Maybe that's not what I can say or what I know what to say, but it's underneath what is happening. So instead of that idea of letting go, because what we tend to do is grasp further, it's how can I allow, right? That sense of acceptance. How can I release my grip on this a little bit? How can I get a little distance from this? How can I find the space between you and me? And that space between us is the strategy. It's remembering not to take things personally. It is learning to laugh at myself, learning to laugh at the situation. It is finding some depersonalization in it. Maybe the other person reacted, but do I need to take that personally? Can I maybe wear a pair of perception glasses which says maybe they had a really crappy day, right? So how can I get some space between the situation? Humor can help in that. It's not always about um, avoiding and letting go in that sense. Mindfulness is not about avoidance. It is about, again, release being the grasp, which keeps us stuck in certain things. Um, I love this. Oh, you guys are great. I love it. Okay. So humor, play, mindfulness helps us with the stress of caregiving. So I'm curious if you want to add into the chat box. We've got someone who really likes jokes. What do you do that is playful? What do you do to play? I think we have a perception as an adult. I'm assuming we're adults here in this particular viewing, that suddenly when we cross a threshold where we can't play anymore. It's why I don't know if you've seen it. My friend and I were marveling at what's the big deal about mahjong right now. Everybody seems to be playing mahjong because it's a game. Because there's strategy, there's connection, there's something that they're not getting by watching television, right? Or there's something they're not getting and they're getting play. Pickleball is super popular right now. It is like all the rage, right? It's a little more accessible. It's a plastic ball. It's not tennis where it requires a lot of strength or running. It's much more accessible to people, and people are learning that they want to play. Um, phone games on your phone. There's things that that are out there in this world that are reminding us that play is so important. And this sort of teasing and playfulness and finding the humor is so critical. I love this. Someone said, I play pickleball. It's great connection with others. I play with my cat. I crochet or craft alone or in groups. More play in groups. I love that. This has become more popular, right? This doing a solitary creative activity, but in a group, because you get ideas, there's curiosity, there's commonality, there's common humanity. You're finding a way to connect with others, even if you're doing a solo event. I'm all into art, someone said, and music, and I love getting together with my friends to play Scrabble and Rummy Cue. Frida, I think everyone's going to want to be your best friend after this webinar. So, right, there's something very attractive about playfulness, about lightness. And when you can get a gateway into that, oh, can you feel how that can remove some stress and some stressors in your life? I don't think we need to go into all the benefits, but I'm going to review them fairly quickly. If you feel you want to hang out here, you can take a screenshot of some of this. But this is how humor and play and mindfulness, based on the research, is impactful to you and why you should do it, right? So it relieves or alleviates stress. It improves your mental health. It strengthens and creates healthy bond and relationship. It increases your immune system. When you laugh, you're actually pumping in a particular hormone in your body, that cortisol, that dopamine, and that sense of connection, that hormone that provides connection, and it strengthens your immune system. It's a protector. Um, it can diffuse things. It can ease tension in the room, right? It can increase your mood. And by allowing time for enjoyable moments, you are creating memory markers in your brain. What does your brain love? It loves new, novel, surprising, right? That's why, right, on the negative side, that's why we remember traumatic events. That's why we remember, right, a car accident. That's why we remember a passing. That's why we remember how something stung when we heard a critique. But the same is true for positive interactions when it's new, it's novel, surprising. Um, I interacted, and this is one of my favorite things to do with a grocery store clerk, someone checking out my bags, is just noticing something about them. I had someone who packed my groceries so efficiently that now I intentionally get in their line because they're really, really good at it. And so I told them, I was like, I actually, when I see you here, I want to take your line, even if the line is longer, because you do it so well. And they lit up like a Christmas tree. And we had this fun dialogue that was surprising to them. I can imagine that the next time that I go in, that they will possibly remember me and right and have a sense of, I hope, delight in our interaction. Um, this is from the author Jane Heller. You better not die or I'll kill you. Again, right? It's a joke. It meant to be funny. Over 20 years, my husband required dozens of surgeries. I started taking notes about caregiverville, and because, as Nora Ephron famously said, everything is material. Someday you will think this is funny. Not that being a caregiver isn't a laugh riot, but when there are moments of levity, you either seize them or you go mad. And I'm curious how many of you can potentially relate to that. That there are just moments of caregiving that you kind of have to shake your head, or moments in life where you go, I cannot believe this is happening. Um, Other people have commented that they listen to music, they dance, they sing along to a favorite song, you take walks, local road trips, play games on my phone. Wow, what a wonderful inspiration you are. Oh, playing with children. But there's nothing like children to lighten things, right? The spontaneity, the curiosity they have. It is quite inspiring. So I'm gonna stop sharing my screen here for just a moment. I have a really short clip of a comedian who caregives, and I feel like this is right, the exact time to do this. Let's take a quick mindfulness pause before we watch it. So check in right now with your surroundings. We call this orienting to the space. So you might look over your shoulder, you might look underneath your chair, out the window or door, look around your room. Ask yourself, how do I feel in this particular space? It might be your space, it might be an office or somewhere else. Hopefully you've chosen a space that you feel somewhat comfortable in. Check in. When I did that little look around, I noticed my shoulders dropped a little bit. I kind of felt this like, oh, yeah, I like my space. I like being in this place. And it just brought this sense of ease or comfort. In fact, my attention dropped to my seat, what I'm sitting in, and then my feet. I'm curious what you felt when you looked around. What do you notice in your body? Just about your space. And you can add it to the chat box. This orienting to space is very similar to what I do when I go to the grocery store, right? I'm picking the line where the person is smiling or the person's pretty efficient or whatever reason. And that's where I feel comfortable. That's where I feel safe. That's where I feel like, that's where I want to be. Some of you maybe choose the shortest line. Some of you might choose a line in which, right, you feel uh, maybe the person in front of you feels easy, like they don't seem agitated. We naturally gravitate toward a sense of ease or protection. Your body's so smart. It is so intelligent in that way. It's constantly searching out ways in which it can feel this sense of what we would call homeostasis or ease in the body. Now, for some of you experience chronic pain, or for some of you experience being in challenging or difficult situations at work or even at home, and it doesn't feel like that. It's good to pull away for a moment, putting yourself in a place, whether it's in nature or in your bathroom, in a place in which I can exhale here and notice what that feels like. So when you go out in the world and you feel tension or you feel dis-ease or discomfort, you can remind yourself that you know how to regulate. You know what it's like to feel safe in your body. That helps us move more easily into humor. Yeah. Ah, I love that. Someone said I have a home repair going on, so it's messy and felt a little stressful, right? So maybe you felt your heart rate go up or like, oh, I should be cleaning or fixing this. But then you looked at your dog sleeping on the floor and felt peace. That's exactly it. You've nailed it. When you can go to a place, what brings me a sense of embodied ease or safety? And even if you're not there, can you go to it on the inside and remember what that feels like? Then you have more access to these mindfulness tools. When you can regulate, when you can find inner sense of ease in the midst of chaos, that's the secret sauce. Yeah. I feel safe and comfortable in my home. Someone wrote, I made it mine, which makes me feel positive and welcomed. And even if, right, even if you don't have a space like that in your home, if there's a corner of a park and nearby where I live, there is this magnificent tree. And when I feel things are a little out of control or unsettled, I walk right up to that tree and I look straight up. And I feel that the significance of the tree and the insignificance of some of the things I'm experiencing. So, in other words, perspective is so useful. Orienting to the space is what that key skill is called. So, I'm going to share my screen. We'll transition to, let me see. Da, da, da. Hold on just a second. Make sure it's all up and ready to go. There we are. Okay. Please let me know in the chat box if you cannot hear it, and we will make adjustments. I'm going to put this to full screen and hit play.
I'm excited to be here. You know, I got two kids, ages 70 and 71. Yeah, my parents are adorable. Through my comedy, I'm able to make people reflect on what's on the horizon because it's like aging is a part of life. You can't escape it. It's just everyone's gonna deal with it. Either you're gonna need somebody to take care of you or you're gonna care for somebody. It's just how it goes. That's the duality of life. I take care of my parents, which I love. I love it. You know why? Because everything my parents told me as a kid not to do, as they're getting older, they're doing it now. I became a caregiver from a very young age. I was meeting with doctors, translating for my parents back and forth with the healthcare professionals. There was a lot of pantomiming, happening because I couldn't, certain words I just didn't know. My first language is Spanish, and I didn't have full command of English until around the 5th grade, and I kind of had to hit the ground running and figure it out quick, for the sake of my parents' health, really. You worry about your parents. I stress out, it's like I'm raising kids. I feel that's why I'm losing my hair. Look at this, I'm 26 with a comb over, look at that. Like on a windy day, my hair looks like those things outside a car dealership. Caregiving is very dynamic. It's never just one thing. There's a lot of things that need to happen, and those responsibilities and the day-to-day change all the time. You gotta have a good sense of humor because things tend not to go how you planned, and sometimes you just have to laugh. There's been a lot of changes since my early years of being a caregiver. The last few years were rather tough, caring for my mother in the physical sense where you're picking somebody up from bed, putting them in a wheelchair. And she had a great sense of humor, It's like, I think that kind of diffuses or takes, the tension out of situations that sometimes maybe you didn't get the rest you wanted to get the night before. Maybe you have so much work to do. I think the hard thing about caregiving is that you're juggling so many things. You're juggling life, you're juggling career. So yeah, things are gonna fall through the cracks and all you can do is just kind of laugh and you just surrender to the situation. I think the biggest piece of advice I've ever received from my parents was like todo con calma, which is do everything with this energy of calmness. The way I receive that is take a breather, It's like you can never be so busy or so in a rush that you can't take a deep breath. I was a caregiver for so long for both of my parents that now with my mother's passing, there has been a shift to being more of an emotional caregiver, especially for my father. And there's a saying in comedy that pain is funny and funny is pain. And I do believe that as a stand-up comedian, you kind of talk about these unfortunate situations and what went wrong, what'd you do, what silly situation. So I think being a caregiver does make you look at life in a very different way. If you have a thing that allows you to be creative, I think as a caregiver, that's important to put time into it, invest time into this creative thing because it does help you. I don't know where I would be, if I didn't have comedy as an outlet to deal with everything that I've been dealing with for years, and especially most recently. I will say that caregiving is a privilege. As tough as those situations are, I can guarantee you that looking back, it's time well spent. I'm very grateful for the time that I had with my mother, and I'm grateful for my dad. Yeah, it's a privilege, remember that.
All right. Oh, I would be curious to hear some of your reflections in the chat box. And what struck me most about that is really his last statement, is that what a privilege it is. And I think it's easy in the day-to-day of, right, to take ourselves so seriously, and the seriousness of it, while it is, right, and it's a responsibility, not only caring for others, but caring for ourselves. But man, oh, how can we lighten that and lessen the load in such a way that we can actually handle the day-to-day load? So, oh, yeah. Someone wrote, I wish I had seen that before my mother died. Someone else wrote, it is indeed a privilege to be able to take care of your loved ones. Yeah. And I know, right, day to day may not feel like that. And that's where having all of these different plethora of tools, these different resources can be invaluable. And you, by showing up today, right, just by showing up, there is a curiosity and a propensity toward learning. And that in and of itself allows you to be open to what's next, to open, to have different ways to respond. So I'm going to share my screen again. We'll head back toward the PowerPoint. All right. Right. Just, I don't know that we need more and more benefits, right? But humor can create a safe social environment. It allows you to have more adaptation. It can help decrease cognitive decline. There are lots of excellent research studies that talk about those that incline toward connection toward others. That longevity study from Harvard is a great example of that. One of the greatest reasons that individuals have had a longer or have longevity is a sense of connection to others, and humor is one way to connect with others. When you allow yourself to notice funny things happening and encourage the person you care for to do the same thing, it can decrease tension. It just takes it right out of the room. Laughter helps people cope with difficult emotions. Again, we're not using it as an avoidance tool to not get at an actual need that you might have or that the person you're caring for has, but it may actually be the gateway to get you there to understand the need and the importance of it. Humor serves as a protective measure against stress, exhaustion, and burnout. Oh, we did a whole session on burnout. I would highly recommend going back and listening to that. Laughter boosts health and well-being. And what was that? Ooh, 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 ooh. Oh, I lost it there. Humor shouldn't be mean or disrespectful. So, right. So sometimes, I don't know if anyone has experienced someone who does sort of biting humor, or they say, oh, can't you take a joke? Actually, if someone has to say, can't you take a joke? that's an immediate indicator that it was not funny and then it wasn't funny to the other person. So there, right, has to be context, audience, um, and also the content. You have to have some awareness toward that. And right, we want to be practicing our humor with those we already have established relationships. And as you get more and more comfortable, you get to use it in places that you don't know. Sometimes for me, with strangers, it's actually a humorous thing. I was on a hike the other day with my nieces, and this is an example of being careful with humor with strangers. We were just coming down from the top, and there was this couple going up, and she stood and took a couple of breaths, and you could tell she was quite tired. And I said, "You're almost there. It's just at least another mile." And I thought she was gonna cry. She looked devastated, and I was like, "Oh, I'm sorry. That was a joke." But, and then the relief on her face. So while it was funny, right, some be aware that sometimes people may not be prepared to handle some of your humor. Uh, oh, good. I love it. Frida's on a roll with more jokes. Um, yeah. Oh, thank you so much for continuing to add to the chat box. I think we're all enjoying it. Um, there is a comic he writes under cardiac arrest after becoming a caregiver. And this particular comic I found really funny. That pill's for your heart. This one's for your eyes. This one's for blood pressure. That one's for diabetes. This one's a blood thinner. That's for cholesterol. That's for dizziness. And what's for dessert? Right? There's probably a lot of pills involved. Um, yeah. All right. So if you have a pen, I have a challenge for you. Three funny things. So the challenge is to write about three funny things that happen each day and answer the question, why did this funny event happen? Why did this humorous thing happen? This interaction. So there is this research on happiness. When we look at gratitude journals, everyone says, "Oh, I need to cultivate more gratitude." I'm not of the camp of forcing things. I think when we force things, we try to silver lining life. I think it turns into some masking. So I want to have a little caution about that. But there is something to be said about looking, seeking. So if I were to tell you when you leave here today, do not look at any red cars. Don't look at any red cars. Do not see any red cars. What are you going to see? You're going to see red cars everywhere. You're going to be noticing them. You're going to be pointing them out. You're going to be like, "Oh my gosh, I can't believe how many red cars there are." This is the principle or the lesson of awareness. When we are intentional about becoming aware of something, we begin to notice things everywhere. Um, I started noticing birds recently. I went to the Audubon and I've been playing with my bird app, and now I see house finches everywhere, where before I was completely oblivious. I'm starting to become more aware of what my intention was. The same is true for humor and gratitude. We are wired for negative cognition. It is how we are designed in order to protect ourselves. Evolutionarily, we are designed to, right, as way back when, to hunters and gatherers, to settlers, right? We're always looking for things that are in danger. But now we live in a more modern society in which we're not running from a tiger. There are, generally speaking, not natural dangers in our everyday life necessarily. Most of us, if you're sitting here listening today, have some element of privilege. Um, and just by the fact that you have access to this video today tells me that. So our entire system of how we are designed to protect ourselves way back when still exists. So our brain is wired toward that negative cognitive bias. But when we choose to become aware of other things, we choose to find or seek out something humorous, we choose to find the finches, we choose to find things, we can alter our experience in the world. You have that power. So I would be curious, right? Psychologists tested this in the lab and they found out that it made people happier within 1 week of writing them. And even 6 months later, the happiness, right, was still there. Not necessarily that they were still keeping track, it's that there was longevity for that. It had a lasting impression or effect on them. So I would be curious right now for you to just jot down one thing that maybe happened today or yesterday or in the past week or past month that you found funny, and you can just jot a word down. It could be Uncle Joe, or it could be at the restaurant. You don't have to write all the details. But here's the secret ingredient. It's the why. The why. Because the situation was tense. Because it was surprising. I wasn't expecting that to happen. And that was hilarious. Because um, I was really tired and I got if you've ever heard of the church giggles, like you just can't stop laughing and it may not even be the right circumstance or situation. Um, the why helps you keep looking for it in the future. Just similarly to when we look for gratitude, understanding the why helps us connect more deeply to it, because I felt this gratitude for um, spending time with my friend because I really value our relationship. So the why is so important. I love this. Um, yeah, of course. I'm gonna put my email address in the chat box. I'm not seeing. As I'm in this view, I'm not able to do that. It's caregivers retreat with an S, info@gmail.com. You can email me and I'm happy to send you the recordings. If you've emailed me in the past, I'll send you this recording as well. So thank you for asking that. And I'll put in my email address again in just a few moments. So cultivating a sense of humor is this quote is a major defense against minor troubles. It's a major defense against minor troubles. Yeah. Uh, so here's where we can read some of our jokes. You know you're a caregiver when you pick the restaurant based on how close the bathroom is to the door from the parking lot. You know you're a caregiver when you're sharing your screen during a web meeting at work and an ad for incontinence supplies. Oh, that's a terrible joke. I'm so sorry. You know you're a caregiver when it takes 3 hours to watch a normal length movie because of all the bathroom breaks. Well, I can relate to that. There was uh, Frida's joke. Okay. Let's see if I can find it back here. Oh, it's not letting me scroll back. Okay. What's the difference between a man and a woman? A woman is as good as she feels, and a man is as good as the woman he feels. Oh my, Frida. Wow. This would be know your audience. Thank you, Frida, for your jokes. Oh, wow. So, when we're cultivating a sense of humor, it requires something called cognitive reappraisal. It's exactly what we just talked about, a sense of awareness. It helps us notice details, observing subtle humor. So if we're noticing things around us, we're able to find more humor in it. When we're all caught up in our own cognitive rumination, it is much more difficult to find those humorous situations. When we cultivate positive emotions, that helps us create that cognitive reappraisal. Gratitude, kindness, connection, savoring is one of those. That is a beautiful one, meaning For example, yesterday we had a little rain here, which brought out a quintessential Santa Fe sunset. And I just watched it for a few moments and watched it marvel, and I could marvel at its change, the different hues, the color. So I was really savoring the moment of that. Communication, it can have another cognitive reappraisal. Be surprising. When people expect you to say yes, say no. In other words, right, when things are different or surprising, it enables us to have a different response. Playfulness, seeking new, novel, fun, absorbing projects. Someone mentioned crocheting, animals, children. Um, uh, there are different ways to do it. This one comes from improvisational comedy. I don't know if how many of you have used this technique. I used it with my kids. I have used it with just about everyone that I know. Sorry to give away secrets here if anyone that I know is watching. The technique is yes and. So let's say, right, how do you keep the comedy going? It's yes and. So someone says a particular statement. I really don't like these hamburgers. Yes, and I think I will take a bite and see how it makes my stomach feel. And yes, and I might have to go to the bathroom right after that. Yes, and right, if you instead you say but or I don't like it, it has nowhere to go. But when you can say yes and, you have somewhere to go from there. It is the secret ingredient to improv comedy. Um, there we go. Okay, so we're going to do a very short drawing exercise as well. So if you have a pen and a piece of paper, that would be handy. Um, without, right, without looking at anything, I would like you from memory. Some of us have difficulty visualizing things in our mind. Others of us see full images in our mind. Everyone is very different, and that's okay. But if you can, from memory, draw either your favorite person, your favorite animal, or the last person that you saw. So you're drawing a person or an animal, and you're not looking at your piece of paper. Do not let your pen move at all. So I am going to draw my favorite person. Oh boy. And I'm not going to pick up my pen at all, and I'm not going to look at it. So let's see. Here we go. Are you ready? We're going to have 60 seconds here to do this exercise. Just 60 seconds when you're ready. So, oh dear. Okay. And, oh, okay. I think I've finished. I have no idea. I think he has no eyes. All right. When you're done, put your pen down. Mm. And that's what it looked like. I'm pretty sure that was supposed to be hair and a nose. There is an artist who has something called, if you were to Google it, Draw Together. And she puts two strangers together. She sits them right across from each other, gives them a pen. They are allowed to lift their pen, but essentially they don't look down at all. And you're to draw the person across from you. I have also done this exercise where you can look down, and I've given different time lengths. So 1 minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes. The idea is it's a very short period of time, so you're not fussing over particular details. And then in the very end, each person shares what they drew. What happens is, right, no one's drawing is great. It's all done very quickly. There's laughter, there's connection, there is a new way of seeing something. And there's a new light, right, in which you see yourself and you see the other person. Doesn't matter what background, who you are. Every time I have done this exercise, there is a new sense of connection with them, and it has sparked a conversation that perhaps they wouldn't have had otherwise. So I would be curious for you to be more playful. I'm not an artist. I don't draw. I appreciate art. I love art. But there is that general sense of connecting with others that can be so incredibly powerful. We'll move in the direction. I'm going to share my screen again of another mindfulness exercise. And as we move in that direction, let's take another just quick tool and pause. So taking your eyes just a little bit off the screen. If you were here earlier and you heard the little clip with the caregiver, one thing that he said that also struck me, besides it being a privilege, is that you've got to take a breath. His father taught him to take a breath. So that's what we're going to do. So finding your feet connected to this earth. So if you don't have access to your feet, imagine your seat, or even take your hands and press them on your lap. So you choose a body part that you feel connected to. With your eyes a little bit off the screen, you'll take a breath in right at the edge of the nose. So feel the coolness of your breath move in and feel the warmth as it moves out. Okay, do that again. Breathe in. And if you're having trouble breathing in through the nose, you can use the mouth, preferably the nose. It filters the air and it slows the heart rate. And breathe all the way out. Now, the next time that you breathe in, find connection to what's underneath you. Breathe in through the nose. Lift your shoulders if you have access to that. Exhale, lower the shoulders and feel either your seat, your feet, or your hands. And then as you bring your eyes back, you could do one more breath, shrugging the shoulders, feeling that drop. What do you observe in your body now? What do you notice most? Yeah. What do you notice most? I notice I'm like even sitting back in my chair a little bit more. There's a sense of maybe tingle in my feet that wasn't there before. Someone wrote calmness. If you were able to shift something, or even if it feels neutral, then you have capacity to become aware and make change in seconds. You could feel your cold feet. Perfect. Feeling your cold feet moves you the furthest distance from ruminating thoughts that may not be true, right? Our thoughts are not always true or accurate. They're our perception of things. If you notice your cold feet, great. Then what would you like to do? Maybe warm the feet, rub the feet, put on some socks, right? It gives you more choices when you have awareness. Okay. We're going to close with um, looking at tree crowns. Uh-oh, there we go. Hopefully you can see an image of some trees in this moment. And yes, I will do that. For some reason, when I share my screen, it's not letting me add to the chat box. So I will do that in just a moment. So as we look up at the tree crowns, take a moment to notice what you're observing. So see if you can, right, let your eyes go somewhere. So it might be drawn to the blue or the leaves or the trees, whatever you're drawn to, let your eyes go there. Now, imagine you're actually looking up at these tree crowns. Imagine you're looking up at them and see if you can take in as much of it as possible. What do you hear, or what do you imagine hearing? What do you feel in the body as you imagine it? What do you notice about your breathing? What do you notice about the image itself? The light, the dark, the contrast. We often see, but we don't connect the seeing to the feeling. I imagine if you have access to your eyesight, right, that you're seeing things all day long. But do you really see things and notice how it affects the body? If you had a shift in your body, calmness, ease, patience, whatever it was, imagine what you could do throughout the day if you took these moments of pause, either for, right, playful looking at tree crowns, playful noticing, or curiosity, or compassionate curiosity. Imagine how deeply you could affect your day just by taking these pockets and these moments to notice. It reduces judgment. It creates pause. It gives you a beginner's mind. There is this letting go of control, the seeing the vastness. Okay, I'll stop sharing. Yeah, tremendous height and the beauty of the leaves and the light coming through. Ah, I love it. So I put my email address in here, caregiversretreatinfo@gmail.com, caregiversretreatinfo@gmail.com. And if you would like all the recordings, I'll send that to you. Just send me a little email and I'll reply to it. My hope as you leave here today, and I would love to hear your intention as we're exiting our program today. What is one thing that you hope to either become more aware of or practice or implement as a result of being together today? What is one thing that you would like to implement, practice, or become more aware of as a result of being here today? So if you would take a moment to add that to the chat box, I would love that. For me, it's a great reminder to stop taking myself so seriously. At the end of the day, how much weight I put things into in these categories, is it really need or deserving of that much weight? If it does, then I'm going to, right? Then that chooses my path. If it doesn't need that much seriousness and weight, how can I become lighter and have more levity? Ah, todo con calma. I love that. Don't sweat the small stuff. Yeah. Beautiful. Yeah. There is, and I know I've said this in other series, one of my favorite phrases is, I don't mind what happens. And if I can have that mindset and it allows me more malleability, right? Then I have more strategies to be aware of my surroundings and see the good, even when I'm not happy. Yeah. Even when I'm not happy, right? Just the intention of moving toward seeing things in a different light will shift the mood. It's not about manufacturing happiness. It is about creating a little more homeostasis in our nervous system. Beautiful. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for the privilege of being here. What an honor. As Jennifer said, if you registered for this class, you'll be getting a survey. Please tell them you loved it. If you didn't, then send me an email instead. I would love to do this again with you all next year. What a gift and what a privilege. Yeah, I love it. It's reinforced what is truly important and to let go what isn't important. Mountains or molehills. Yeah. Will we get the recording? My hope is that you will get a notification from AARP. If you don't get that, my email address is caregiversretreatinfo@gmail.com. And I have put all of the prior sessions on a YouTube channel, which you can email me and request for those. I'm happy to send them to you. So thank you so much for asking. All right, everybody, have a fantastic day. You're so welcome. Time well spent. Thank you. I totally agree. I absolutely love my time with you all. What a gift it is to be with you. So wishing you the greatest amount of ease and something to laugh at today. All right. Thanks, everybody. Have a beautiful day.